Hello everybody, John here, and today onto the garage we've got an unusual video and one I hope you're going to enjoy as much as I'm going to enjoy. Drying your car. Don't. Short video, isn't it? I don't actually like drying my car. I quite enjoy cleaning my car, washing my car, polishing my car. Drying my car I don't like. A couple of reasons for that. One, kind of lazy, I guess. It's relatively hard work. You're not supposed to let your car dry in the sun because it'll be all patchy, so you've got to get it clean reasonably quickly, or you dry it in cooler, shadier conditions so that you don't have to work so quickly, but then you've got to work harder at drying it because it doesn't want to dry, and you're using chamois levers and chamois levers grip, or you're using a fleece or towel, which, yeah, much better, but it's just hard work, and you don't feel like I'm getting anywhere particularly. And the more you wipe it, the more you find finer trails of water if you're on a nicely waxed car. So there's that degree of, I just don't like it. The second side of why I don't want to dry my car is, unless you air dry, as in blow your car dry, drying the car mars the paintwork. You can dress it up however you like, but it's intimate contact with the bodywork or the wax if you've got a really good protection on, and you are trying to rub or absorb water off it. All the other steps, not so. So I wash my car with a jet wash, non-contact, get rid of the dirt. Then I spray it with snow foam, fun, no problem, no contact. I let that dwell to soften anything up. I jet wash it off again. Then I spray some more snow foam on, and then I use a lamb's wool mitt. Think about how exotic and careful that is, but most of us will do something similar. It might be a really soft sponge or a noodle mitt or something, but we use something really quite nice to lather and wash the final dirt off of our car. And all the time that's being lubricated by the soap. So you're protecting the bodywork from the action of, in my case, the lamb's wool mitt, and it glides across, and it's nice and it's easy and it's very satisfying. Then you hose the whole thing off again. And it's the last step, drying it, but it's the only one where you're actually rubbing against the bare metal or the bare paint or lacquer or wax of your car. And that means you are slightly marring it. It's probably where a lot of us get our swirl marks over time from. If you're really well waxed up, then yeah, you're reducing that wax slowly. You know, I'm not criticising how people dry their cars. Has been happening for years. So I'm being quite extreme and sort of cartooning the situation to make a point. But yeah, drying your car, not the best for it, and I don't like doing it. So my dream has been not to. And I looked into blow drying the car, but it's less than perfect. It's another piece of kit, it's another cable, all the rest of it. Didn't really want to go there. I do need to get my car properly dry. So, why does a car need to be properly dry? If you leave beads of water on your car and they dry naturally, then that bead of water is not pure water. It contains minerals. It contains calcium and lime scale, as we would say in the UK. It contains iron sometimes. It contains chlorine from the mains water supply. It contains all sorts of bits and pieces. And as that bead of water evaporates, and you can't see anything in the bead, it leaves behind all the minerals. They can't evaporate. They're solids. And they're deposited on the paintwork in the form of a water spot. And it's usually a sort of powdery white effect. And most of it will dust off, but not all of it. And you've really got to rub quite hard to get all of it off. And again, that's where paint gets damaged. And the the white powdery effect ruins an otherwise beautifully clean looking car. Now, bodywork on Purdy is far from perfect, but nice, and I do like it to look nice. So water spots are an issue. I've also got blue, my XJL, which has privacy glass +1. It has limo glass on it. It's jet black. You cannot see through it. And any drop of water that dries on there leaves a mark that you can see, and it's quite an effort to get them off. My dream has not been not to do all of that. So I'm never going to drive my car again. That's the plan. How? I'm always saying that to the garage is my hobby, not my job. And that remains true and probably always will be true. But it has to be said that I have got some income from the advertisements that run alongside the videos. I don't place those, I don't choose those, etc. It's just YouTube doing their thing, and it's how they make their money, so I'm fine with it. But equally, they send me a few pennies for every 1,000 views a advert gets. And though it's not a lot of money, particularly in the UK where advertising rates are not as high as in the States, it tots up and you put it in your piggy bank and you can save up for things. And I've been doing this for a long time now and bought the odd tool that I wanted at that advertising revenue. I've bought myself a lovely toy thanks to you guys, the subscribers and the viewers. Just keep watching my channel and not always skipping over every single advert. And that is a 0 ppm water filter or a mixed resin bed filter, which means I can rinse the car using absolutely pure water, and it doesn't matter if it dries. It will not leave any marks. That's the plan. I'll show you what I've got. Here it is. This thing that looks like a overgrown fire extinguisher is my Race Glaze, that's the brand name, 0 ppm refillable water filter. As I said, bought with my own money, but thanks to the YouTube adverts, so thanks YouTube, thanks you. But not sponsored in any way, so I'll say exactly what I want to about this, and it's in no way biased. This is a mixed resin bed filter, meaning it contains granules of resin that are either positively or negatively charged, and between them they're going to take out all of the minerals and residue and particulates that are in tap water. So I did my research and looked at all the different systems that are available and suppliers, and I went for Race Glaze. Why? It's British, it's a brand name that I'm familiar with. They're going to supply it from the UK, and obviously this is a significant item, so coming in from other countries might have added some transport costs. They use this sort of woven resin wrapped container, which is great because it's not steel, it's not going to rust, it's strong, it can take water pressure that my mains is going to supply and possibly my jet wash is going to supply. It's refillable, you can buy the resin. I don't normally go too much into prices with things on my site because I always refer you to a link. The prices always change. But just to give context on this one, it's late 2021. The contents of this, the resin, if I want to replace it, will cost me about 80 to 90 pounds. The entire kit with the resin in it, ready to go, cost just over 200 pounds. So this is the material that's inside the mixed resin bed filter. Looks like Demerara sugar, but it's actually little beads. So it feels quite soft and nice to touch. And that's a mixture of two different types of resin. One attracts negatively charged particles, one attracts positively charged particles. And I say we're not going to go deep into the science today, but between them they are constantly removing The positively charged stuff as it flows up, which then becomes more negative. So it's attracted to the positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. By the time it gets to the top, there's nothing left in it. That's the plan. Water is going in from our main supply through here. It will go into the middle and down the pipe, which it seals to, all the way to the bottom of the container. It then has to rise through the height of all of these granules. When it gets to the very top, it can come through this screen, which just stops the granules from coming out the outlet. And then that goes to your rinsing hose. They do a 7 litre, and a 14 litre one of these. They also do bigger ones, I believe, if you really want them. Their containers have a good aspect ratio. And what that means is you can buy quite cheaply things that aspire to do this, which are a bit more fat and dumpy. And you think, well, why on earth would that matter? It matters because the narrower it is and taller it is in relation to its width, the more contact time there will be for the water as it's rising through a bigger column of these granules. You can have exactly the same volume of granules in a really short, fat, dumpy cylinder, but the water would come up through a 6-inch path through the granules. This is forced to come up through about 1 metre of granules. So aspect ratio is an important factor when looking at these. So as I say, they do a 7 litre and they do a 14 litre, which is this one. And this one is the one I went for because that aspect ratio is really good and it'll last me longer. It says 0 ppm. ppm is a unit of measure. If you imagine you've got 1 million parts of water, you're going to add to that some parts that are not water. They are minerals, they are debris, they are traces of other things. 0 ppm, no particulates, all water. But tap water is not 0 ppm. This is a little sink in the corner of my garage, but it is supplied by the same mains line as that which comes from my house. We live in Lincolnshire in the UK, and my mains line does actually have a pretty basic filter on it as well. Probably doesn't take out a lot in terms of ppm, but it's marginally better than mains water, let's say. Now, it might not look it, but this is clean, it's just scuffed up. I'm going to put some water in a container, and I've got this little gadget, and I'll put a link in the description below to these because I know many of you guys are as bad as me at needing gadgets and tools. I didn't really need this, but I wanted it. It's just a meter that's able to check water temperature, but also, far more importantly, the ppm of water. And it's only doing it for an algorithm of temperature and conductivity, so it's not perfect, but it's going to measure how many parts per million are in this water. So you turn it on, it says 0. You give it a little swill around in your chosen water. And there's a button that says hold. Just clicking that. There you go. So that says 288 parts per million. We'll just do another check. Just to get an average, if you like. Turn it off, turn it on. Okay. And back in. Oh, I didn't press the hold button, sorry. I was reading the number, which was 268, pulled it out and it went 0. Oh, it's still 268. 268. I'll park that there so we can check it later. Now I would say you've missed the installation on this, but you can hardly really call it installation. I've stood it here out of the way of the door. I've put a strap round it which came with the order that I put into Race Glaze, and whilst this is not overly heavy, I think it's 13 kilograms including the resin inside it. It's dry currently. As soon as you add water it's going to be significantly heavier, and it is rather top heavy, and we don't want it to topple over and damage anything, so that strap's quite useful. This hose goes to my mains supply, and this hose lock connector is going to go to a length of hose pipe which I've got on the floor, which I'm going to keep just for a rinse in the car. I can connect this up to my jet wash and wash using 0 ppm water, but it's a little bit pointless because obviously you're going to add all sorts of things to the water that includes soaps. Plus this has got a life, so you're only going to get X number of hundreds of washes out of the resin before it starts leaving behind residue again, and then you've got to change the granules inside. So by reserving it just for the rinse, I'm increasing the life of this filter. I'm going to hook up my outlet pipe as well. This has never been turned on, so I don't know if I've got any leaky joints or anything. What I'm going to do now is just turn on the main supply tap and fill her up. There we go. Excellent. I can hear the water running inside here. Check with the manufacturer, you don't have to drain this down. You can stop with the water in there for unlimited amount of time. So you can just basically turn your tap on, use, turn your tap off, leave, and it doesn't matter if you're going to leave it a month. Also because it's this, I want to call it like nylon look and feel as a container, it's fine in terms of frost. I wouldn't recommend leaving it outside. What's the point in freezing your resin? But if it ever did catch a bit, it's not going to split. Okay, there's mains water coming out. Just going to let that run for a few seconds because this pipe is not brand spanking new. Just let it push any air through. Just turn that off at the tap. And then what I'm going to do, just because again I don't want any effects of anything else, just for this experiment, I don't want you guys to think that I'm doing anything with a nozzle. Let's just completely remove everything. So other than a bit of string that's hanging off that. There's the bare end of the pipe. It goes in there, down to the very bottom through a tube. The water's rising now through a metre of resin. I'm going to dry this. I'm not going to be that precise. Whoop. There's my lid. I'm just going to put some of the water in here. There we go. And then if I just turn this back on, give it a little stir. Ooh, that I was not expecting. Right, I'm going to shake that off, turn it off, and bring you right in. Okay, so this is turned off, on, so there it is at 0. Yeah. I'm going to do this in one take, just so that you know what I'm doing is correct, because I'm amazed myself. Pop it in. You dip it into this ridge here. It's not got to be precise. Give it a good stir. Press your hold button. Zero ppm. I expected very low figure, but particularly basically I've just turned the thing on. I thought there'd be some particulates still in there. I'm just going to not cut with the camera or anything, just to prove a point. I'm going to turn this off, turn it on, tip this away. My tap is not connected to the filter. Same container, same everything. That's on 0. Press hold. $244. Absolutely amazing. Make sure you can actually see that. LCD's terrible to display on camera. Well, I think you can take my word for it. It says 244. I'll do another one in here. Let's get rid of the water. So again, no cuts. That's off. On. 0. Didn't put much in that time actually. Hold. $269. Tip away. Fill with filtered water. So it says 269 from the last reading still. Off. Doesn't have a clear button on this. On. 0. Hold. 0. Absolutely amazing. Made up. So my filter is doing exactly what it says on the tin. It's called a 0 ppm filter, and there it is. The reason I bought that test gauge, which was about £7 or £8, you know, it's not a precise instrument, it's not calibrated, was so that I could check when my resin was running out and it was starting to come back, rather than wait for the mess to start to occur on the car. I think now is time for some experiments with washing. I'm not going to use Purdy, despite her desperately needing a wash. She's still up on the ramp because I'm dealing with the exhaust. I'm going to use blue because blue is very dark and has that limo glass on. She's also very, very dirty, but I know that she shows up the watermarks terribly. So we're going to do a little experiment based on her. So I've rinsed the car with the jet wash, Then I applied snow foam on maximum. Then I rinsed it back off. Now I've put a thin coat snow foam on, turned down to about half, so it's got a little bit more water in it. Just going to let that dwell for another 1 minute. The first coat was left for 5 minutes. And then lamb's wool mitt, give the bodywork a little bit of an agitate, rinse it off. This is the only time I'm going to touch the car in my new wash regime. So now it's all been agitated, jet wash rinse with standard water before we try the magic. So literally I got hose pipe, no attachment on the end. I just folded it over to slow the flow down. And I'm just going to rinse this off. The car has done 10,000 miles in appalling weather and has never been waxed or polished. And I'm not waxing it or polishing it now. So it's the worst possible scenario in terms of debris staying on there and ruining the finish. So we're just going to swill it off and see what happens. Pure water. It appears to sheet much nicer than the tap water. I don't know if that's a trait or I'm kidding myself. So there's no wax on this car. If there was, it's long since faded. But it does appear to sheet rather well. Zero ppm water, by the way, is essentially the same as deionized water. So if you collect water in a dehumidifier in your home, that is deionized water. Or you buy it for your iron, that is deionized water and would do, in theory, exactly the same job. We're just making it as we need it. I'm going to turn this off. And I'm just going to let the car dry naturally, which feels very wrong. Now this green hose is tap water. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wash one of the windows, the one that's facing us now so you can see it, with tap water and leave that to dry. Obviously it's going to affect the door and splashiness. I'm just playing it over quite thoroughly because obviously I've essentially decontaminated it and now I'm recontaminating it with minerals, and we'll just see if it makes a visible difference. Obviously this is limo glass and this is just tinted glass, so it would show up more, but we're only, what, 10 minutes in, I guess. You can see this is drying and it seems to, everything's disappearing. it's holding more on this piece of glass, but neither is yet dry enough to say I can see or not see any minerals. Let's look at the same window on the other side. And on this side, front and rear have been treated the same with the deionized 0 ppm water. You see it's even. It's going to be very interesting. Okay guys and girls, it's been about 15 minutes and I think it's time to turn on the camera light and give you a close-up of what's quite exciting me. So this is the window I poured the tap water over as my final rinse. And yeah, first glance, shiny. Let's get you in close enough, but I hope you're able to see all the water spots. I'll take some images with another camera just in case, because it's very hard for me to see on this tiny screen what you can see, but they are there. Let's go around to the other side to see the exact same piece of glass. Still a few drips on it that haven't yet evaporated, but absolutely clean. That might be a better view. So here you got some actual water still. That's not a water mark. Ooh, camera moving. It's not a water mark, that's water. Still sitting on the surface, but absolutely clean. I know it's incredibly reflective. It looks like you're looking in a mirror. But that's limo glass for you. I mean, literally can't see through the stuff. If I go around the other side, same panel, same piece of glass that's been rinsed with tap water, which I would normally obviously have rubbed. You hopefully can see what I'm seeing, which is all the water spots. The rest of the car, unless there's a drip here and there still on it, is looking sweet. I have not laid a finger on it. We've got lots of splash here where I did the tap water and it's bounced onto the rear window as well. In fact, here's really good examples of water spots. The staining you get if tap water sits on your car, that's really good example of it. But you look on my boot lid, it should be the worst because it's flat, therefore it definitely sat there for the longest. Not a mark. Look down the sides, a few drips there actually are still wet. Again, the bonnet near horizontal. There's a few drips on it, but no watermarks. So it's pretty much night and day. But there you have it. I've achieved my mission because never again will I dry any of my cars, which is just huge for condition and ease, let's call it, rather than laziness. Really pleased. So I say, in no way sponsored. Go check out these sorts of things for yourself. There are lots of brands available. I'm really happy with what I've got and what I've done. I'll give you a report back on how many washes it actually lasts. There's sort of recommendations from the manufacturers. Say if you're using it conservatively, i.e. just for the rinse like I have, then maybe you took 400 or 500 washes before you change the granules. We'll find out for real. I will change them as soon as I see a change in the finish, but I will keep checking the water quality just for interest and give you guys some feedback. So, love that. Well, if messing around in your garage, doing experiments like that, playing around with your cars, loving Jaguars, particularly the XK8, and obviously I've got blue, the XJ, but I love all Jags, T4 called Betsy, our Jeep. If you like any of that sort of stuff, then please consider subscribing to the channel. It costs you absolutely nothing. It's just a little rectangular red icon on the YouTube viewer frame that says subscribe. If you click it, then this channel is added to a list of your favorites down the left hand side of your channel view. And if you go on to click the bell icon, then it just allows YouTube to send you a notification when To The Garage puts out a new episode. Loving you all, stay safe, and we'll see you soon on To The Garage.